He thought my credentials gave him the keys to success. They gave him a one-way ticket to federal investigation. I watched him build a presentation on reports that would get workers killed. Then I watched the whole thing blow up in his face from the front row. This is how I used 22 years of experience and careful planning to take down someone who tried to erase my existence. My name is Gerald Patterson, but everyone calls me Jerry. I'm 47 years old, divorced, and according to my performance reviews at Pinnacle Engineering Solutions, technically exceptional, but lacking the modern leadership style for client-facing roles. Translation: he knows his stuff, but he doesn't talk the MBA talk these young hotshots expect. I've spent 22 years making sure construction sites don't turn into graveyards. When the Riverside Bridge project had foundation issues that could have killed 30 workers, they called me at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. Fixed it by Tuesday morning. When the downtown hospital expansion failed its OSHA inspection because someone cut corners on safety protocols, I rewrote the entire compliance framework in 96 hours. Nobody asked how I pulled it off. They just added it to their project portfolios and moved on to the next crisis. Being the invisible guy means you see everything. I've watched 28-year-old MBAs present my safety assessments to federal inspectors. I've sat in meetings where my compliance frameworks got pitched word for word by people who couldn't explain a single regulation behind them. 6 times I've been passed over for regional director positions. The feedback never changed. Jerry needs to develop his communication skills for executive-level interactions. Reality check. Jerry doesn't play golf with the CEO's nephew. Pinnacle Engineering Solutions operates out of a converted steel mill in Pittsburgh. We handle infrastructure consulting for government contracts, the kind of work where mistakes don't just cost money. They cost lives. The place tries to look modern with glass conference rooms and digital displays, but it's still the kind of business where hard hats matter more than designer suits. My office sits at the end of a hallway on the 2nd floor, next to the equipment storage and the fire exit. Perfect for me. Nobody drops by just to chat, and I can focus on the work that actually matters. The isolation gives me space to think, which is exactly what this business needs more of. The financial pressure doesn't help my mood. Divorce finalized 3 years ago, alimony payments every month, plus my daughter's junior year tuition at Penn State. My son starts college next fall. The money side of things keeps me awake some nights, especially when I see younger guys getting promoted while I stay stuck in the same role year after year. Everything changed when we landed the Keystone Infrastructure Assessment, an $8 million federal contract to audit safety protocols across 12 major construction sites. The kind of project that defines careers, gets written up in industry journals, and wins government recognition awards. Naturally, I expected to handle the technical work, while someone else took the spotlight. This time felt different. During our project kickoff, Richard Sullivan, our managing director, specifically called out my role. "Jerry will be essential to this project's success," he said, looking directly at me. "His safety expertise is exactly what the federal team needs." For a minute, I thought this might finally be my shot at something bigger. I should have seen the warning signs. That same week, HR announced they'd recruited a rising star from McKinsey, someone who would revolutionize our client relationships. The announcement included a headshot of a guy who looked like he'd stepped out of a business school brochure. Perfect smile, confident stance, the kind of polished presence that screams never spent a day on an actual construction site. His name was Justin Walsh, and he was about to become my worst nightmare. Justin Walsh arrived on a Monday morning like a corporate hurricane in a $3,000 suit. 28 years old, Wharton MBA, and a resume that read like consulting mythology. He'd allegedly transformed 3 infrastructure projects, led digital optimization at 2 Fortune 500 companies, and somehow found time to keynote conferences about disruptive engineering solutions. The whole office was buzzing before he'd finished his first day. Richard introduced him during our weekly all-hands at 9 a.m. sharp. "Justin will be leading our Keystone infrastructure engagement," he announced, while Justin stood there radiating the confidence that comes from never having a safety violation shut down your project. He brings innovative thinking and proven client success. Then, almost as an afterthought, Jerry will be handling all technical assessment, research, and compliance documentation. Handling. That word that means everything and nothing at the same time. It meant I'd do the actual safety work while Justin did the presenting. It meant my name might appear in small print on page 47 of the final report. It meant another year as the invisible expert while someone else collected the recognition and probably the promotion that should have been mine. The math was simple and depressing. Another year at my current salary while my kids' college costs kept climbing. Another year watching someone else get credit for my expertise. Another year of being the guy who fixes everything, but never gets to run anything. Justin found me that afternoon. Didn't knock. Guys like Justin never knock. "You must be Jerry," he said, flashing that MBA smile. "I've heard you're the technical expert around here." The compliment felt scripted, like something extracted from a management training manual about working with legacy employees. He leaned against my doorframe, taking up space like he owned it. "I'm excited to collaborate. I have some disruptive ideas about the Keystone project that will optimize their safety protocols." I nodded politely, playing the supportive colleague. Internally, I was calculating how many hours I'd lose correcting his optimized ideas. The pattern was already clear. He'd make promises to the federal team, then expect me to deliver miracles on impossible timelines. It began subtly, like these things always do. "Hey Jerry, can you send me the OSHA compliance data for the Pittsburgh sites?" That was day 3. Then I need the structural integrity assessments by end of day. Day 5. No please, no thank you, just expectation. By week 2, he was forwarding federal inquiries with "just handle this" typed at the top. The emails came at all hours. 7 a.m. requests while I was getting coffee. 6 p.m. demands when I should have been heading home. Weekend messages asking for quick updates that required hours of work. The breaking point arrived on a Thursday at 6:15 p.m. I was deep into reviewing foundation reports for the downtown metro project when Justin burst through my door without knocking. "I need your access credentials for the Keystone project files," he stated. "Not requested." Stated. "I'm putting together a preliminary assessment for the federal team and need immediate access." "Those files contain raw inspection data," I replied carefully. "They're not ready for client review. Half the reports are still being validated, and the other half need peer review before they go anywhere near federal inspectors." He waved dismissively. "I understand what I'm doing. I just need to pull some frameworks for Monday's checkpoint. The federal team is expecting preliminary insights." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Justin, those aren't preliminary insights. They're working documents with unverified data. Some of those assessments could be completely wrong. Look, Jerry," his tone shifted, becoming the patient voice people use with children. "I know you're used to traditional approaches, but modern project management requires agility. I can't spend weeks waiting for every detail to be perfect when the client needs progress updates." Traditional approaches, like following federal safety regulations, was some kind of outdated concept. "Email me the credentials," he continued, already turning to leave. "I'll handle the client communication piece." Then he was gone, leaving behind expensive cologne and the assumption that I'd comply. I sat motionless, staring at my monitor. 22 years of being overlooked, watching my work disappear into other people's presentations, being told I wasn't management material while managers presented my assessments to federal agencies. The pattern was always the same. I'd do the technical work, someone else would take the credit, and when things went wrong, somehow it was never their fault. But this felt different. This wasn't about taking credit for a successful project. This was about presenting unfinished, potentially dangerous safety assessments to federal inspectors who had the power to shut down construction sites and ruin careers. Justin was gambling with other people's lives because he needed something to show at Monday's meeting. Something crystallized in my mind. Not anger. Anger burns too hot, too fast, and leads to mistakes. This was colder, sharper, more focused. This was precision. The financial pressure made it worse. My daughter called that evening, stressed about next semester's expenses. My son needed money for his college applications. The alimony payment was due next week, and my ex-wife had already sent 2 reminder texts. I couldn't afford to lose this job, but I couldn't afford to let Justin destroy my reputation either. I spent that night thinking about federal safety regulations, about what happens when someone presents fraudulent assessments to government inspectors. The consequences aren't just professional embarrassment. They're criminal charges, industry blacklisting, and the kind of reputation damage that follows you forever. By Friday morning, I'd made my decision. I created a new folder on the company server. Keystone Final Reports, GP. My initials were barely visible at the end, small enough that most people wouldn't notice them unless they were looking specifically. Inside that folder, I began crafting something special. Not lies exactly. That would be too obvious, too easy to detect. Instead, I built beautiful, professional-looking safety assessments that were subtly, catastrophically flawed. Structural reports that missed critical foundation issues by using outdated calculation methods. Safety protocols that violated basic OSHA requirements in ways that looked sophisticated, but were fundamentally wrong. Equipment inspection schedules that would miss dangerous wear patterns because the timing intervals were based on faulty assumptions. Site assessments that ignored environmental hazards by relying on incomplete surveys. Compliance frameworks that contradicted federal regulations while appearing to follow them. Each file looked perfect. Professional formatting, compelling data presentations, charts and graphs that seemed authoritative. But underneath the polished surface, every single recommendation would put workers at risk and expose any client to massive federal violations. The beauty was in the details. I used real OSHA reference numbers, but applied them incorrectly. I cited actual federal standards, but misinterpreted their requirements. I included genuine safety data, but drew conclusions that no experienced inspector would accept. Creating those files required everything I'd learned in 22 years of safety engineering, every regulation I'd memorized, every inspection protocol I'd mastered, every federal requirement I'd spent decades following. I had to understand the system perfectly to break it in ways that wouldn't be immediately obvious. The work took me 3 weeks of evenings and weekends. I'd arrive at the office early, stay late, and spend hours crafting assessments that would pass casual inspection, but crumble under expert scrutiny. Each document was a masterpiece of professional sabotage. Meanwhile, I created the parallel versions, the real assessments, stored in password-protected folders that only I could access. These were legitimate, thorough, and completely compliant with every federal regulation. They represented months of careful analysis and would actually protect workers while satisfying all government requirements. I also started building a digital evidence trail. Every time someone accessed the dummy files, my background monitoring script would log it. When files were downloaded, I'd know exactly when and by whom. If anyone renamed documents or stripped metadata, I'd have screenshots proving the original source. The email to Justin was concise and professional. Here are the credentials for the Keystone Project files. The reports in Keystone Final Reports should have everything you need for the preliminary assessment. I hit send at exactly 7 p.m. on a Friday evening, then carefully backed up everything to multiple personal drives. The trap was armed. Now I simply had to wait and document everything that followed. Justin took the bait faster than I'd expected. Within 2 hours of receiving the credentials, he was downloading files. By Monday morning, I watched him present my sabotaged frameworks in our team stand-up meeting. "I worked through the weekend developing these assessment protocols," he announced confidently, pointing to visualizations I'd created 3 weeks earlier. "The insights represent a fundamental shift in how we approach infrastructure safety." Steve, from Quality Control, raised his hand. "That structural assessment methodology seems unusual. Are we really recommending those load calculations for federal review?" Justin's smile never wavered, but I saw his hand tighten on the presentation remote. "That's exactly the conventional thinking we need to challenge, Steve. Modern safety optimization sometimes requires approaches that make traditional engineers uncomfortable." He clicked to the next slide, displaying my intentionally flawed inspection protocols. "These efficiency improvements will revolutionize how federal agencies evaluate construction safety." I maintained a neutral expression, taking careful notes like any supportive team member. Internally, I was documenting every false claim, every misrepresentation, every moment he passed off my corrupted work as his revolutionary thinking. The meeting ended with congratulations and enthusiasm. Richard praised the innovative approach. Several colleagues commented on the thorough analysis. Justin accepted all the credit graciously, occasionally mentioning my valuable research support in passing. That afternoon, he started sharing the assessments directly with the federal inspection team. The next month became a careful dance. Justin would demand new assessments, always urgent, always last minute. I'd provide them from my special folder, each file a precisely crafted weapon waiting to backfire. He started excluding me from client calls, telling Richard I was better utilized in technical development. "Jerry's great with the detailed analysis," he'd say, "but these federal relationships require a different communication style." Translation: keep the old guy in the back room, while the MBA handles the important conversations. The most revealing moment came during a Thursday progress review. Justin was presenting our work to Richard using exclusively my dummy files. "The technical analysis is exceptional," Richard said, glancing at me with what looked like respect. "Jerry, your engineering background really shows through in these assessments." "Actually," Justin interrupted smoothly, while Jerry provided some initial data gathering, "I've completely restructured the assessment methodology. This represents a fundamentally different approach than our traditional safety protocols." I smiled and nodded. Justin has definitely put his unique perspective on these reports. Let him claim it. Let him own it. Let him stake his entire reputation on safety assessments that would crumble the moment a real federal inspector examined them closely. Every presentation made him more committed, more invested in the fiction. He couldn't reverse course without admitting he'd been presenting garbage for weeks. The preliminary review with the federal team was already scheduled for the following Tuesday. Justin had sent them the complete assessment package for advance review. There was no turning back. During this period, I maintained 2 parallel workflows. While feeding Justin the poison pills, I quietly built the real Keystone assessment in secured folders that only I could access. The actual analysis told a completely different story. Genuine safety protocols that would protect workers, proper OSHA compliance that would satisfy federal inspectors, and actionable recommendations based on sound engineering principles. Every framework was thoroughly documented, every regulation properly interpreted, every recommendation defensible under expert scrutiny. This was my real work, my insurance policy waiting backstage while Justin performed his doomed show. I also documented everything Justin did with forensic precision. Screenshots of every email where he claimed ownership. Just finalized the structural assessment methodology. Found some breakthrough approaches. Screen recordings of team meetings where he presented my dummy files as his revolutionary thinking. I've developed an innovative framework for federal safety compliance. Email threads where he forwarded my sabotaged work to federal inspectors with his signature as lead engineer. The most incriminating evidence came from Justin himself. He created a shared folder called JW Keystone Deliverables, where he stored what he considered his work. My corrupted files with metadata stripped and his name added to headers. He didn't realize our system maintained complete version histories showing the original files copied from my folders, complete with timestamps proving I'd created them weeks before he arrived. The system logs told the whole story. Over 6 weeks, Justin accessed my dummy files 45 times. He downloaded every report, some repeatedly. He tried renaming them, reformatting them, even recreating them in new templates to make them look more like his work. But the digital fingerprints remained. Every action left a clear trail leading back to those original corrupted files in Keystone Final Reports, GP. Justin's confidence grew exponentially as the federal presentation approached. He started speaking at industry panels about his innovative safety methodologies. He submitted a paper proposal to the Infrastructure Safety Summit featuring frameworks pulled directly from my sabotaged files. He even gave an interview to Engineering Today magazine about revolutionary approaches to federal compliance. The interview was published 3 days before our presentation. I kept a copy for my files. Meanwhile, I quietly prepared for what was coming. I tested my laptop's presentation capabilities, ensuring the real assessment would display perfectly. I organized my documentation trail chronologically in a leather portfolio. I printed backup copies of the version histories, the email threads, and the access logs. Most importantly, I forwarded comprehensive evidence packages to my personal email accounts and sent a complete summary to my attorney. For your records, I wrote, in case questions arise about the integrity of safety work presented to federal clients. The night before the presentation, I called my daughter. "How's school going, honey?" I asked. "Dad, are you okay?" "You sound different. Just thinking about work stuff. Big presentation tomorrow." "Well, good luck. I know you'll do great." I hoped she was right. Justin's final preparation meeting was Monday afternoon. He gathered the team to review our presentation strategy. "Tomorrow showcases everything we've built over the past 6 weeks," he announced confidently. "The federal team will see exactly what Pinnacle Engineering can deliver." He clicked through the slides, my sabotaged assessments displayed in polished presentations that looked impressively professional. Structural analyses that violated basic engineering principles. Safety protocols that ignored fundamental OSHA requirements. Compliance frameworks that contradicted federal regulations while appearing to follow them. "Questions?" he asked the room. Steve from Quality Control raised his hand again. "I'm still concerned about some of these methodologies. Shouldn't we have peer review before presenting to federal inspectors?" Justin's smile was patient but condescending. "Steve, I appreciate the concern, but we can't let perfectionism paralyze progress. The federal team expects innovation, not just repetition of standard approaches." Richard nodded approvingly. "Justin's right. This is exactly the kind of forward-thinking work that wins major contracts." I said nothing. Tomorrow would speak for itself. That evening, Justin sent a company-wide email. excited to present our groundbreaking Keystone Safety Assessment to the Federal Inspection Team tomorrow. This work showcases Pinnacle's next-generation engineering capabilities and positions us for significant contract expansion. He copied the entire leadership team, our board of directors, several industry contacts, and even some competitors who would undoubtedly be watching our performance. He was all in, reputation fully committed, completely unaware he was about to present 7 files of meticulously crafted fiction to federal safety inspectors who'd spent their careers identifying exactly these kinds of problems. I spent Monday evening quietly reviewing the real assessment one final time. Clean data, accurate analysis, proper methodology, defensible conclusions. Everything the federal team actually needed to evaluate our capabilities, honestly. Then I looked at what Justin would be presenting. Looked at what? An $8 million catastrophe disguised as innovation, built on flawed assumptions and impossible recommendations that would endanger workers and violate federal law. The gap between reality and his fiction was insurmountable. I set my alarm for 6 a.m., laid out my best suit, and went to bed early. Tomorrow was going to be a very long day. The federal conference room was sterile and intimidating. Government-issued furniture, no decorations except safety statistics on wall displays, and fluorescent lighting that made everyone look slightly ill. 14 people filed in at exactly 8 a.m., including Vincent Rodriguez, the project director whose approval would determine our future, and Stephen Clark, the lead safety inspector whose 25 years of experience had made him legendary for catching contractors who tried to cut corners. Justin arrived 20 minutes early, working the room like a political candidate. All confident handshakes, practiced small talk, and energy that suggested he'd never had his work challenged by people who actually understood federal safety regulations. I sat in the second row as instructed, laptop ready, watching him set up with the casual arrogance of someone who'd never faced real technical scrutiny. Richard and 2 other Pinnacle partners took seats along the wall. The tension was obvious. $8 million in federal contracts and our company's reputation were about to be decided by the next 2 hours. At exactly 8:30, Vincent Rodriguez called the meeting to order. "Gentlemen, let's see what you've prepared for us." Justin clicked through his opening slides with practiced confidence. Company overview, project scope, methodology. Introduction, all safe territory, nothing that could expose the disaster waiting underneath. Then came slide 5, structural safety protocols. The moment the assessment appeared on screen, I watched Vincent Rodriguez's expression shift. The protocols violated basic federal engineering standards that had been in place for decades. "Can you explain this load calculation methodology?" Vincent asked, his voice neutral, but his eyes sharp as surgical instruments. Justin's smile remained perfect. "Our analysis shows significant optimization opportunities in traditional approaches. These recommendations represent innovative thinking that challenges conventional limitations." Stephen Clark leaned forward in his chair. "Mr. Walsh, these calculations completely ignore the 2018 federal safety updates. Following this methodology would guarantee structural failure within 6 months. That's exactly the conventional thinking we need to move beyond," Justin replied smoothly, though I noticed sweat beginning to appear on his forehead. "Modern engineering optimization requires approaches that make traditionalists uncomfortable." Slide 6. Worker Safety Compliance Plan. Now even the junior inspectors were frowning and exchanging glances. A whisper reached Vincent from one of his assistants. He nodded grimly. "Mr. Walsh," the project director said, ice crystallizing in his voice. Are you seriously recommending inspection intervals that violate OSHA's minimum safety requirements? This would put workers at immediate risk of injury or death. The data clearly supports optimized scheduling that— The data supports absolutely nothing, Stephen cut in, his 25 years of experience evident in every word. This isn't innovation, it's negligence. These aren't efficiency improvements, they're safety violations that would result in federal criminal charges. The room erupted, voices overlapping, questions flying from every direction. Why do these emergency protocols completely omit federal contact requirements? How can you suggest equipment maintenance schedules that guarantee accidents? Are you really proposing to skip environmental impact assessments for a federal infrastructure project worth $8 million? Justin floundered, retreating into consulting buzzwords about optimization, efficiency, and disruptive thinking. Each answer only dug him deeper. His confidence evaporated as federal inspectors dismantled every aspect of his presentation with the precision of surgeons. Then Vincent asked the killing question. Mr. Walsh, do you understand federal safety regulations at all? 14 pairs of eyes locked on Justin. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out except the sound of a career ending in real time. Stephen's voice was quiet but lethal. Mr. Patterson, do you have anything to contribute to this discussion? All heads turned toward me. Justin went pale, finally understanding that his nightmare was just beginning. I stood slowly, smoothing my suit jacket. Yes, Mr. Clark, I do. My laptop was already prepared, the real assessment loaded and ready. May I? I held up the connection cable. Vincent nodded curtly. Please do. As I walked past Justin, frozen in place like a deer in headlights, I felt 22 years of invisibility dissolve completely. The screen flickered. His fantasy vanished. Reality appeared. Proper load calculations meeting current federal standards. OSHA-compliant inspection schedules that would actually protect workers. Environmental assessments following EPA guidelines to the letter. Every single protocol rooted in actual regulations, not optimization theories pulled from business school case studies. This methodology aligns with federal requirements, I said, my voice steady and confident. Following established safety standards protects workers and ensures full compliance with government oversight. Stephen studied the data on his tablet, cross-referencing with federal databases. These calculations match our internal standards exactly. This is what we expect to see. I walked the room through the real assessment methodically. Proper safety protocols based on proven engineering principles. Compliance schedules that satisfied federal requirements without compromising worker protection. Realistic timelines that accounted for thorough safety verification. Every recommendation was defendable, every standard properly met, every calculation verified. 90 minutes later, the room was fully engaged. Federal inspectors were taking detailed notes, asking informed questions, and discussing implementation strategies. This was professional collaboration as it should be. Honest, rigorous, and focused on actual safety rather than theoretical innovation. Finally, Vincent raised his hand to pause the discussion. Mr. Patterson, this assessment is exactly what we need. But I have to ask, if you had this comprehensive analysis, why were we initially presented with that disaster? He gestured toward Justin, still standing motionless by the wall. I pulled up a folder labeled Documentation Trail on my laptop. Timestamps, access logs, email histories, version comparisons. The flawed files were working drafts, never intended for client presentation. They were accessed without authorization, and presented as final work despite explicit warnings about their incomplete status. Stephen scrolled through metadata on his tablet, examining the digital evidence. These files match exactly what we received yesterday. The digital signatures were clumsily altered, and the timestamp modifications are obvious. Here's the complete chain of custody, I continued, displaying the message histories that showed every step of Justin's deception. Documentation showing who created what, when ownership was falsely claimed, and how draft materials were misrepresented as finished assessments. The silence was absolute, except for the ventilation system humming overhead. I had laid out the evidence like a federal prosecutor, calm, factual, and undeniable. Richard finally spoke, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "Jerry, why didn't you escalate this internally before it reached the federal level?" I met his gaze steadily. I documented everything through internal channels, but concerns about technical integrity have historically been dismissed. I believed the federal inspection team deserved accurate information rather than dangerous fiction. Vincent stood, his decision already made. "Gentlemen, we need a brief recess to discuss this situation. Mr. Patterson, please remain available. The rest of you," his eyes found Justin, "wait outside while we determine how to proceed." Once alone with the federal team, Vincent's tone shifted completely. That took considerable personal risk, challenging a colleague in front of federal inspectors. "My job is providing accurate safety assessments," I replied. "I couldn't let you make $8 million decisions based on work that would endanger construction workers and violate federal law." Stephen looked up from his laptop, where he'd been reviewing my assessment. 25 years in federal safety oversight, and I've rarely seen someone stake their career on regulatory integrity. This is exactly the kind of technical leadership this project needs. I want him running the entire engagement. Vincent nodded decisively. "Can you deliver everything you've presented here?" "Yes, but I'll need real authority, proper resources, and direct access to site data without interference." "Done." He extended his hand for a firm handshake. "Shall we invite the others back?" When the Pinnacle team returned, Vincent's message was crystal clear. "We're proceeding with the Keystone Project under one non-negotiable condition. Gerald Patterson leads this entire engagement. No exceptions." Justin's face had drained of all color. He'd built his entire presentation on poisoned files and now faced potential federal investigation for presenting fraudulent safety assessments. The drive back to the office was silent. By 2 p.m., Justin was gone, escorted out by security while federal investigators secured his computer and files. Richard called an emergency all-hands meeting at 3:30 p.m. "Gerald Patterson is now Regional Director of Safety Engineering," he announced to the assembled staff. "Justin Walsh is no longer with the company. We don't anticipate any questions, but if you have concerns, please see HR individually. No explanation beyond the facts. None was needed." For the first time in 22 years, I wasn't invisible. Colleagues I'd never spoken with sought me out, not for favors or urgent fixes, but for genuine collaboration. Others quietly shared their own stories of stolen credit and workplace politics. I wasn't alone in this experience. I was just the first to fight back with comprehensive documentation. 6 months later, the Keystone Infrastructure Assessment was complete. On time, under budget, with 0 safety violations across all 12 construction sites. Vincent Rodriguez sent a handwritten letter praising the team's integrity and technical excellence. That letter is now framed in my corner office, the one with windows overlooking the river. Justin's LinkedIn profile briefly listed a small consulting startup. Then it disappeared entirely. The infrastructure industry doesn't forget safety violations, especially when they involve attempts to deceive federal inspectors. I published a paper titled "Integrity in Infrastructure Safety Assessment for the National Safety Engineering Conference. It won the Outstanding Technical Achievement Award, the same conference where Justin had planned to present frameworks based on my sabotaged work. My daughter called that evening after the award ceremony. "Dad, I saw the article about your award online. I'm so proud of you." "Thanks, honey. How are classes going?" "Good. And Dad?" "I'm not worried about tuition anymore. I know you'll handle everything." She was right. That night, I opened a new project folder. Metro Bridge Assessment GP. My initials were front and center. No traps this time, just honest work that would keep people safe. My phone buzzed with a text from Vincent Rodriguez. "Glad the federal government finally found someone who actually understands what safety engineering means." I smiled, saved my work, and headed home. The invisible man was gone for good. In his place stood someone who'd learned that in federal contracting, integrity isn't just good practice, it's survival, vindication, and ultimately justice. And sometimes, if you're patient enough and document everything carefully, justice comes with a promotion and a corner office. Sometimes the best revenge isn't immediate confrontation. It's giving someone exactly enough rope to hang themselves while you carefully document every knot. In the end, the truth doesn't need a loud voice when it has a complete paper trail.